What you're actually eating is far more important than the tracking. When my eating is all over the place, tracking is a drag. It becomes overwhelming because it's just a reminder that I'm not on track. All right, what's going on? Sean Griffin here. Welcome to another episode of the Kettlebell Guys podcast. Today, I want to talk specifically about macronutrient tracking, calorie tracking, and what it means for your nutrition, and specifically how that relates to your body composition results in whatever fitness program you're doing. Because let's be honest, if you don't get your nutrition dialed in and working for you, it's very unlikely that you're actually going to see the physical transformation that you want to see from the effort that you're putting into the gym or into your workouts. And this can be a frustration point for a lot of guys because they might be training hard. They might even be getting cardio or steps in, but they're not seeing the results show up on the scale. They're not seeing the results show up with their photos every other week. That is in our system, at least, where they're taking photos every other week. Or maybe they're just not seeing the results show up in the mirror. And that's a point of frustration. And I've seen a pattern time and again with guys when it comes to actually tracking their food intake. And I wanted to kind of run over a couple of different ways that I look at that and what the mindset is that I feel like helps you approach the tediousness of tracking your calorie intake, recording your food intake, and having that work for you. Now, this comes about because yesterday in our community, one of our clients he made a post in the community. He said, "I'm struggling with tracking. I hate doing it. I don't know why. I'll do it for a few days and then I'll fall off. I'm getting my workouts in, I'm getting my steps in, but the food and the water are the hardest part for me." And he asked for help. And we started to get some great responses from the guys in our community, especially from guys who have kind of been there, done that. They went through the struggles and challenges of tracking their food intake and were able to get it dialed in and ultimately see some pretty awesome results. And so I wanted to share some of those responses, but I also just wanted to share how I personally have approached tracking calories in the past, tracking macronutrients, and really just taking control of the food that I'm eating. And there are two lenses that I want to look through. The first is the mindset side of tracking food intake, and the second is actually the execution side. So from a mindset standpoint, my response actually to our client was that what you're actually eating is more important than tracking, because what he said was, "I'm struggling with tracking. I'll do it for a few days and then fall off." And so the way I look at this is from a mindset standpoint. First off, you just have to understand that tracking is, generally speaking, inconvenient. It is certainly more tedious than not tracking your food. And so you have to understand that. You have to come to the table knowing, hey, this is going to be harder. This is going to be more effort on my end. It's going to require more planning on my end. There are going to be times when I'm not going to feel like doing it. And in order for me to get the best results, I'm going to have to do it anyway. So you just have to understand that, like we say with our workouts, like we say with transformation overall, action precedes motivation. It's not the other way around. It's not that you need to feel motivated in order to do it. It is that you will feel more motivated to continue to do it when you are consistently taking action. And either way, regardless of how motivated you feel to track your food intake, you need to take action anyway if you want to get results. Now, if you can approach it with that mindset, then you can get into this frame of approaching your day-to-day where it's, hey, I don't feel like doing it, but it's just what I'm doing right now because this is what it takes in order for me to get the outcome that I'm aiming for. Does it make it perfect? No. Does it mean that you're automatically going to flip a switch and be like, okay, I feel like doing it now? Definitely not. But the thing is that doesn't matter because the results that you want, they need that level of attention and planning and preparation and precision if you want to get the best results. And so you got to do the work anyway. So just coming to the table with that attitude of, you know what, I'm not going to need this to feel easy. I'm not going to need this to feel convenient. Knowing that, you can just kind of set your emotions aside and focus on the process of doing it anyway. So that's kind of the mindset side of things. Now, the second part is the actual execution. So when it comes to mindset, that's one thing. And almost with anything, especially where it's habit change, it's like, how do I just take action, the known action that I need to do, regardless of my motivation levels? To me, that's kind of the big thing with implementing a new habit or habit change. Know what action is necessary, forget your emotions, and just do the action that's necessary. Over time, you doing the action will snowball into you feeling motivated to continue to do the action because you will see the intended results from the actions. It's not the other way around. Maybe at the very start, it is, I need to be motivated first to take action. But once you have found that initial motivation and you have identified the result that you want, it then becomes all about action. Execution. How do I make it as simple as possible for me to track consistently? This is at least specifically around your food intake and around measuring calories and macronutrients. Well, that's actually pretty simple. And so what I asked our client who posted this question is, I said, I think what you're actually eating is far more important than the tracking. Here's what I found. When my eating is all over the place, no intention, often not by my own design, tracking is a drag. It becomes overwhelming because trying to guesstimate what is in the food I am consuming is more just a reminder that I'm not on track. Versus when I'm preparing my own foods using single ingredient items and eating according to my plan and in line with my stated goals, then tracking is something that verifies I'm doing what I want to be doing based on my goals. And so I think that's really important because if you want to make it easy on yourself, if you want to do any habit, then the simpler you can make it, the more you can kind of do the same thing over and over again until it just becomes part of your routine, the easier it is to do. With tracking your food intake specifically, what that usually means is eating a lot of the same foods. Specifically, I think the way I've approached my nutrition for 12 plus years is same breakfast, same snack, pretty much every single day. In fact, my breakfast never changes unless we go out with the kids, maybe on the weekend to a diner. But even that is pretty rare. I would say 95+% of the time, I'm eating the exact same breakfast, literally no change. And what makes that nice is, at least if I'm in a phase where I'm trying to track my calorie intake, well, now I'm just every single day, I'm inputting the exact same breakfast. And most of these calorie trackers allow you to save meals, or MyFitnessPal allows you to just swipe right to input yesterday's meal. And so there's no thought process that goes into that. I measure out the exact same thing every single day. It's very easy. I just swipe right on my MyFitnessPal and boom, my breakfast is taken care of. And I know it's lined up with my goals. So that's one out of my 4, feedings, as you'd call them, or meals that is taken care of. My snack, which is in between my lunch and my dinner, is the same every single day. I have cashews, I have a banana, and I have a scoop of protein mixed in water. It's that simple. Do I love it? Yeah, it's delicious. I look forward to it every single day. And every day I can just swipe right on my snack and boom, that's 2 out of my 4 meals. So that's literally 50% of my tracking for that day done with no thought process. So already I'm significantly closer to this idea of tracking consistently. Now from there, and by the way, I want to mention that our guy said, Coach Racings and his coach suggested doing it the day before, meaning putting your food in your app, your tracking app the day before. And in my mind, I was like, how the fuck am I going to know what I'm going to eat? Well, what I just mentioned was I already know what I'm going to have for my breakfast and my snack every day for the foreseeable future because it never changes. So automatically, I've already got 2 out of 4. I'm already 50% of the way there, which means, hey, dude, before I've even eaten, before I've even put the thought process into eating, I'm already halfway to my goal, which is to track all the food that I'm bringing in. So if you're someone who can just think about like, okay, do I want to eat? Am I okay eating the same thing, at least for breakfast and snack every day? You probably could do that at least for a period of time. Maybe you're somebody who's like, oh boy, I get so sick of that. Okay, if that's the case, then commit yourself to doing it for as long as it's going to take you to get the result that you want to get. If you're someone who's like, yeah, I could easily do that, then great. You've already got 50% of your food intake taken care of in terms of tracking it. Now, lunch and dinner are going to be the 2 left over. And so there's a very, very simple way to think about this and approach this. For most men, for most people, lunch is simple and easy to track. Dinner may be a little bit more complicated. And just to give you an example, almost always for my lunch, it's leftovers of what I've made for dinner in one of the 2 or 3 previous nights, which is likely going to be a protein, like for instance, chicken thighs or maybe burgers. It's going to be a carb, like I'm going to have some white rice or some sweet potatoes in a Tupperware in my fridge. And it's probably, for me, at least because I like to keep things really, really simple, it's going to be kimchi or sauerkraut, because I can buy both of those at Costco. They're practically no calories. They're full of probiotics. And so I just scoop as much as I want on my, it might also be like frozen broccoli that we cooked the day before that's sitting in a Tupperware. So now I've got protein, which I'm just going to take the protein that's in the Tupperware in the fridge. I'm going to set it on the scale and I'm going to put it in my app. And I'm literally going to have my app open while I'm doing this. So I put it on the scale, boom, I enter it into the app. I put the carbs on the scale, boom, I enter it into the app. And to make things easy on myself, I'm usually looking for something like 150 grams or 200 grams, maybe 250 grams, just depending on the day. But those round numbers just make it really easy for me because most of my entries are exactly the same. So now I've got my protein, I've got my carb, I've got my veggie taken care of. It's a complete meal. It's tracked. It's really, really simple. Typically, it's 3 ingredients. It's the single ingredient protein, it's the single ingredient carb, and it's the sauerkraut or kimchi, which, to be honest with you, I don't even track. I don't even put that into the app because I know that it's going to be like 50 calories or less, and I'm just not that worried about that. So I'm going to get my protein. I'm going to get my carb. Maybe I'm going to put some fat on it. If I've got a really lean protein, I'm probably going to take some ghee or coconut oil or something like that and put it on my carbs. So I'm going to measure that as well. Again, it's all single ingredient. Now, I eat at home every day because I work from home. If you're not eating from home, that means you're probably bringing food with you to work, in which case, okay, great. But when you put your food in the container, go ahead and on your commute to work, if you're not the one driving, enter it into your app. When you do it in the morning, enter it into the app. When you're sitting down for lunch and you're taking a break from your work, before you start eating your lunch, put it into your app. But if you brought it from home, it's going to be really easy to measure. If you're going out somewhere and you're eating at a restaurant, if you're eating at a fast food kind of chain restaurant, then it's almost guaranteed that whatever you're getting exists in tracking apps. So you can plan ahead of time. Hey, I know that I'm going to go to this restaurant. Okay, look up that restaurant in your app, find a meal that's going to align with your stuff, enter it into your app before you go to lunch. And then when you get to lunch, just order what you already put in your app. That way there's no thought process into it. Now, lunch is taken care of. So now I've got 3 out of my 4. So now it just becomes dinner. And what I like to do for my dinner is, ideally, I've already entered in all of my calories in my day before I get to my dinner. So I know that I have the right amount of calories that I enjoy eating for dinner. I like to have the heaviest percentage of my calories at dinner. That's just what I enjoy. So that might mean like a full 30% of my calories happening at dinner. Since typically speaking, for me, at least to make things easy, 25% of my calories is at breakfast, 25% of my calories are at lunch, 20% of my calories are at my snack, and 30% of my calories are at my dinner. So I prefer to have somewhere in the range of 800 to 1,000 calories at dinner. That's just what works for me. It makes me feel like I can sit down and eat a massive plate of food, get all the food I want, where I don't feel like I'm, oh man, I really wish I could eat more food right now, but more like, oh man, I feel so satisfied and full. That's how I like to end my day, because it's a mindset thing as well of not feeling restricted. It's definitely easier for me throughout the day in terms of breakfast, lunch, and snack to feel like, well, I probably could eat more and I kind of want to eat more, but I'm not going to eat more. And a good way to think about that is, typically if you eat too much or if you eat to like being totally full, what happens? Usually you feel tired pretty soon after that. And so if you're doing that during your day, like for instance at breakfast or at lunch, well, you're probably going to be dragging ass within the next 30 to 60 minutes. And if it's in the middle of your workday, you probably don't want that. But if it's at night, well, getting tired after you eat, that's probably a good thing because you're winding down and you're getting ready to go to bed. So anyway, those are just some tactics that I like to think through. But in terms of dinner, this is where I think probably a lot of people, they kind of fall off, because when it comes to dinner, they might be eating foods that, so for instance, maybe they're sitting down with their whole family. So there's like a bunch of different foods. Maybe they got little kids. And so there's, a bunch of landmines out on their kids' plate that their kids aren't finishing. And they're like, oh, I don't want to throw it away. So maybe I'm going to eat it. Maybe they're eating foods that aren't single ingredient. Maybe it's a stir fry or some sort of mixture of different foods where it becomes harder to track. So this is where you really have to look at it and you have to be able to say, okay, what phase am I in right now in terms of my body transformation that I'm aiming for? If you are in a phase where you are aiming for very serious body transformation results, then you might have to sacrifice, might have to look at it and say, I'm going to either eat something different, slightly different, or maybe I'm going to take that meal apart into its constituent parts and make sure that I'm measuring in a way that's meaningful. That might mean pulling out the pieces of protein from a stir fry and putting them on the scale first to understand how much protein. Did I meet my protein goal? Yes, I did. Great. Then it's maybe taking the rest of the veggies or the rest of the carbs. Can you separate those constituent parts out and put them on the scale separately and then put them back in your bowl together to understand or at least get close? Again, is this tedious? Yes, it is certainly more tedious than having single ingredient foods that you're able to enter very quickly and very easily because they're not already mixed up. This is just one example, for instance, if you're making stir fries. This is really important though, because if you are trying to transform your body, the thing is it takes what it takes. And if you are not going to put in that extra effort to do that, then it's probably pretty unlikely that you're going to see the level of results you could if you were willing to make that sacrifice. So knowing that you're going to, this is how I would probably look at it if I was someone who was very actively trying to lose weight by controlling my nutrition. I would look at it and I would say, what meals do I feel like I can eat the same things every day? For me, like I mentioned before, it's breakfast, it's a snack. I feel really confident that I'm going to eat the same breakfast and the same snack every single day because I always have the ingredients in my household and I'm always home at the time that I have breakfast and snack. So it's easy for me. I know those calories are going to be consistent in my day every day. Lunch is also typically going to be very, very simple for me. I know it's just going to be the leftover protein, the leftover carb, and some sauerkraut or kimchi. Again, very, very simple for me. So for me, when I'm tracking consistently, my challenge is always two things. My challenge is, do I have leftovers in my fridge for lunch? That's challenge number one. Challenge number two is, what am I making for dinner? Those are my two challenges. So if I'm trying to be very consistent with my nutrition intake, I'm not looking at it thinking, man, fucking tracking is overwhelming. I'm looking at it thinking, I got to make sure that I have leftovers and I need to make sure that my dinners are simple, because if they're not simple, I'm going to struggle to track, or it's going to be a burden to track. And over time, if there are too many instances of it being a burden, I fall off. That's the truth. So what am I doing there? I'm looking to see where my biggest obstacles or challenge spots are going to be. And then I'm trying to focus my efforts there. I'm not looking at the whole entire thing. I'm just focusing in on the areas where I feel like I'm probably going to struggle, and I'm trying to very actively manage those areas. So I'm just making it easier for me. That's key, right? It's just like we talk about with kettlebell transformation. One of the things that makes our program so effective is we eliminate the gym, get your training equipment at home, and we give you pre-planned workouts. So all of these obstacles that would normally be there, I got to commute to the gym. I'm going to have to be away from home during that time. I'm going to be waiting on machines. I'm going to have to figure out what to do at the gym. All of those normal obstacles, or I should say normal challenges around doing a workout, are removed. You're much, much, much closer to actually doing the workout and doing an effective workout. And when you're there, it's a lot easier to make the justification in your day with your time to go ahead and step over that line and do the work. That's the same thing with nutrition. You need to make it as easy as possible for you to step over the line and do the work. So anyway, I hope this is helpful. If you're out there and you're trying to consistently track your food intake because you're in a phase right now where you're trying to lose body fat or change your body composition in some way, try to make it as easy as possible on yourself. Eat the same thing for breakfast, eat the same snack, consistently have leftovers, consistently have protein in a Tupperware and carbohydrates in a Tupperware. If you have that in your fridge, you're already going to get 3 out of the 4 meals every single day dialed in and nailed. And then all you can do is just focus on dinner. Keep it simple. If you're in a fat loss phase, focus as hard as you can on making your dinners simple. If you're not necessarily in a fat loss phase, like, hey, that's kind of where I am. Well, what I do is I have this, what I've already explained, the same breakfast, the same snack. My lunch is always, like I explained, it's Tupperware from the fridge, protein, carb, and veggie. And then my dinner, I just try my best to not overeat. I just stop at like 80, 90% full. Might have a little ice cream cup, a little 150 or less calorie ice cream treat of some sort, because I like to have that at the end of my night. And I don't really worry too much about it. Now, if I was in an active fat loss phase and I was trying to cut and get lean, well, I would be tracking that and I would be much more intent with my dinner. So that is how I would approach calorie tracking. I think the other probably trouble spot for a lot of guys is going to be the weekend. Very consistently, we find ourselves out of a normal routine on the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, especially if you have kids. And so again, it comes down to like this idea of, okay, so if I'm going to attack fat loss, and I know from my experience that my dinners and my weekends are where I fall off. Again, then I would look at it and I would say, okay, everything that's not dinners and weekends, can I put that on autopilot? Because if I can, then there's not really any stress there. It's just very easy for me. So I'm going to put all my focus on my dinners. And in that case, I'm probably going to try as hard as I can for my dinners to be really precise Monday through Thursday, knowing that like that's going to be my best chance to get my dinners just right, so that Monday through Thursday, my calorie intake is dialed. If I know that I tend to eat out on the weekends, Saturdays and Sundays, well, then here's a little trick and hack that I would give you. Approach it one weekend at a time and use the mindset of someone scoring in bowling. I know this is going to be a slight tangent, but this is truly how I look at it. If you've ever played bowling and you know how bowling score works, you have to close frames, meaning you have to get spares and strikes in order for you to get a high score. If you're getting nines, your score will not even come close to where it would be if you're getting all spares or strikes. Your body transformation is the exact same, with the weekends being how you close your frame. If you've been completely dialed in during the week, well, that's like having a 9, right? You got to get the spare on the weekend, meaning you got to close your weekend in order for you to get results. But here's the cool part. Think about it like this from a body transformation standpoint. If you go Monday through Friday and you stay dialed in, well, then if I get Saturday and Sunday right, now that's pretty much 7 days straight that I've stayed dialed in on my food intake, which is very likely going to produce some noticeable movement on the scale in the right direction. Then I already know I'm probably going to get Monday through Friday right again, because getting the week right is typically a lot easier than getting the weekend right. And by right, I mean on track with your calorie intake, with your macronutrient intake. So when I look at those 12 days, 5 days during the week, 2 weekend days, 5 days during the week, that's 12 days that are dependent on where my results are dependent on 2 days, just the Saturday and Sunday. If I get my Saturday and Sunday sliver right, then I probably know that 12 straight days of good things are going to be happening from a body composition standpoint. Well, guess what? Now it's going to be a lot easier for you to go into the next weekend being like, okay, I just need to focus on this weekend. If I can just get through this weekend and resist the temptation to fall off track because this week I've been good and I'm trying to reward myself, or whatever goes into your head during a weekend where you would fall off track and justify it somehow. You instead look at it and say, boy, if I just get this weekend right, well, now I've got 5 days weekend, that's 7 days. Another 5 days, that's 12 days. Weekend, that's 14 days. And I know I'm going to get the next week right. So now I'm already at 19 days. So now 19 days is dependent on 4 days in terms of results. So you see where I'm going with this? You've got 19 days that are dependent on only 4 days, your weekend days. This is for somebody who tends to struggle with their weekends and undo their progress from the previous week with weekends. If you can zoom out like that and you can look at it, you can say, okay, so a whole month of body transformation results, assuming you're somebody who does pretty well during the week to stay on track. It's not really that big of an effort for you to stay on track during the week, but you fall off a lot during the weekends. A whole month of body transformation results where you could easily drop 6 to 10 pounds of pure body fat is dependent on 4 weekends, 8 days, right? Shaving it down, whittling it down to look at where are my challenge spots and how can I stay on track during my challenge spots? How can I expend my mental effort there? Because if you do that, you're able to place mental effort where it needs to go instead of getting stressed about the whole process overall. So this is just a mindset that has been very, very helpful for me. Hopefully you can take away something from that and it'll be helpful for you. And yeah, there it is. So if you're trying to shed some body weight, focus on your trouble spots, create consistency, eat fewer things, eat the same things as often as you can, and just bring the mindset of this is going to be challenging, but this is what it takes. All right, have a good one.